what car would I have bought if I didn't buy the M2 that I now am driving? Because I've now had my BMW M2 for 2 years, just over 2 years now, if you guys can believe that. And man, this BMW M2 has been phenomenal. I absolutely have been loving this car. I don't really have many bad things to say about it. It's just been such an incredible machine. But there are alternatives to this car, and it got me thinking, like, what else was I planning to buy if not my BMW M2? Welcome guys to Driveway Journey, where I'm all about moving from our first keys to our dream driveways and everything in between. So what car did I have before the BMW M2? For this, I had actually another BMW M2 that I totaled, but that's a different story altogether. But before the BMW M2 altogether, I had a BMW M240i, and that was really my fun first sports car that I had. It's technically not really a sports car per se. For all intents and purposes of this video, we'll call it a sports car. When the time came to replace that car, really I bought my BMW M2 kind of on impulse. I really wanted a BMW M2 when I was coming to the end of my ownership with the M240i, and I was wondering, well, let me just window shop out of curiosity and see what there is out there for BMW M2s for sale. And it just so happened that the dealership that was 15-20 minutes from my house had the one that I wanted in their showroom. So I'm like, you know what, let's do it, let's buy the car. So I bought the M2. So it was a bit impulsive, even though it was a car that I was looking for. It was in my price range, it had everything I wanted, the color, everything was exactly what I wanted, but I just ended up impulse buying it, even though I probably was gonna buy that car anyway. So what was I looking at? Well, if I didn't buy the M2, one of the other options that I could have purchased, that I could have looked at, was an M3 or an M4. I mean, naturally, that seems to be a place that you can gravitate to, right? If you don't want the M2, maybe you want the M3 or M4. Now, when I was looking at the first BMW M2, I wasn't really looking at the M3, M4s all that much, because I was still really into the body style of my current car, which is the 2 Series, right? The BMW M2, and at the time, the M240i. I loved this body style. So I really didn't want to switch body styles to anything else outside of the 2 Series, outside of an M2. Really, it was when I was buying this BMW M2, my second one, that I was debating the M3 and M4. The M3, M4 was a possibility, but that seems kind of obvious. What else was I looking at besides that? I was also looking at a Porsche. I was looking at a Cayman, more specifically a Cayman S, because the Cayman S was also around the same price point as the BMW M2. So why did I consider a Porsche Cayman? Because the Cayman is actually a very close competitor to the BMW M2 in terms of performance. They're very similar cars. The horsepower is pretty similar. Everything's pretty like for like, except the handling I've heard is much better on the Cayman S. Now, I have not driven it. I just never had the chance to, because I ended up buying the M2. The opportunity never really came up for me to say, all right, before I buy the M2, let me test drive the Cayman. But nonetheless, that was a possibility that I was looking at. And it just would have been so nice to have a Porsche, because at the time when I bought the M2, I was, 27 years old? And it would have been really cool to have a really nice Porsche at 27 years old. That'd be pretty cool, even if it's not a 911 GT3 RS. So what else was I looking at? I was also looking at the possibility of just keeping my M240i for even longer. Again, like I said, the only reason I really bought the M2 when I did was pure impulse. Now, it was a car I was looking at, but regardless, it was an impulse decision to actually buy it when I bought it, because I could have very easily have kept that car. I would have still been enjoying that car, even though by now, 2 years later, I would have probably traded that car in and sold it. But the fact is, I didn't. I sold it. Now, there is one other option that I was looking at before buying the M2. The other option was an Audi S3, or maybe even an RS3. Now, less so the RS3, because the prices on the RS3 at the time were still really high, but the S3 was a big possibility. Now, I am an Audi fan because my first car was actually an Audi A4. I don't really talk about that car all that much because I didn't have it all that long, and really for all intents and purposes, I treat my Subaru Impreza as my first car. I have the most memories with the Impreza. I treat that as my core daily driver that I've had for 10 years, not so much the Audi. Before I bought the M240i, I was actually looking at an A3, and I test drove one in black, really awesome. It had like this black package on it or whatever, all blacked out, really cool. But then I ended up buying the all black M240i. Later on, I'm like, well, I can revisit Audi again, and I can take a look at the S3. And I never ended up test driving the S3, and it's a real shame because I feel like it would have been really cool to test drive the S3 alongside the BMW M2. I'm pretty sure, because the M2 came in a dual clutch transmission, and I'm pretty sure the S3 also came in a dual clutch transmission. Although I don't remember 100% for sure, but I want to say it did. And that would have been a really cool like-for-like comparison, even though the car is a bit more akin to the RS3 than it is the S3, whereas the S3 is more similar to the M240i. So those are really the cars that I was looking at in terms of what would I have purchased if I didn't buy a BMW M2? Overall, I'm really happy with the BMW M2. This car has been phenomenal. I've really loved this car. This thing has been great. I have not many bad things to say about this car. This one specifically had a couple issues with it. Aside from those issues, in terms of actually driving it and performance and the fun factor, it's been phenomenal. No complaints there. So I'm really happy with what I purchased. I feel like looking back, the only car that maybe I really would want is the Cayman S, because the M3 and the M4 are going to be way too similar to the M2. Now, those have slightly longer wheelbase, they're a little bit bigger, a bit more luxury oriented than the M2. The M2 is for those windy, twisty back roads. Then the opposite scale, you have the M5, which is really a highway monster. And then in between, you have kind of a middle ground of the M3, M4. Besides that, they are very similar. The M240i, eventually I was going to sell it anyway, so it was time to move on to something else, so that drops off the list. The Audi, even though I had an Audi as my first car, it doesn't call me anymore. I don't have this pull to the Audi like I did back then when the Audi A4 was a lot closer to me in terms of my history, if that makes sense. The only car I would consider now from Audi is an R8. Now, I am currently looking at the next upgrade to the BMW M2, which I've already said is most likely going to be an Aston Martin V8 Vantage in kind of a similar price point, even though it'll cost me a little bit more money. I could also jump into a V8 Audi R8, which is also a really cool, insane option. But besides that car, I don't really have a big pull towards Audi anymore. If anything, I'd be more willing to try an AMG than I would an Audi. Why that is? I don't know, but I do also want to try an AMG. I did not look at AMGs back in the day because AMGs were ridiculously expensive. Even their most entry-level model was still like in the low 40s, which at the time, I really only wanted to pay like 40,000 max for the M2 or the M2 competitor. So I didn't really want to go past that at the time. Now I'm fine with that, but at the time, it just wasn't an option. So then that brings us back to the Cayman S. The Cayman S is really the only more interesting upgrade, I think, from the M2 or from the M240i in place of the M2. It has better handling, allegedly, than the M2, which would make this a lot more fun on the windy, twisty roads where I love taking this car. The badge is a little cooler in that it's a Porsche. It looks a bit more fun and spicy and exotic because it's a Porsche, it's not a BMW. Even though comparatively, it's pretty much a like-for-like competitor of a car, but it's still a Porsche. It has that Porsche body style. It is gorgeous. So I think if anything, I would have picked that in place of the BMW. Now, at some point, I will still experience a Porsche. I will still buy one at some point down the line. When that is, I have no idea. Like I said, the next car, Aston Martin, something completely different. And in many regards, some people say it's probably a bit of a downgrade from the M2 because I'd be getting like an 08, 09, like an early gen V8 Vantage. So in a lot of ways, it's a downgrade from this car. In other ways, it's an upgrade. It's an entry-level exotic. It's a hand-built English sports car. It sounds phenomenal. It looks gorgeous compared to this. I love this car. I think this car is gorgeous, especially with the Long Beach blue metallic paint color. But that car is something different. That car has an elegance that this does not. Doesn't even come close. So I know this video is a bit of a yapping, talking video, but I wanted to talk about what other options there were. So if you like this little yapping video, leave me a like. Leave me in the comments, let me know your thoughts, your opinions, what you bought, what you didn't buy, why you bought it. Let me know. Tell me your life story. I'd love to hear it. Subscribe if you guys want to see more videos. And make sure you guys check out my website, drivewayjourney.com, where, like I said, I'm all about going from our first keys to our dream driveways and all the car journey in between. I have some merch on there that helps us all represent that journey. So if that's something you guys are into, make sure you guys check that out. Thank you guys so much for watching. Till next time.